Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to another video for some assemblage required. Today I am using some acrylic from the February release and I'm super excited about it. I'm also using a cut file which actually I designed, but it's available over in the Some Assemblage Required shop for you. I did design it specifically for MK and for her store. So it says hooked on you, and it does come with the foreground and the background. So you don't actually have to hand cut any of those letters or that hook at all. You can just cut it out on your machine and then glue the outline to the background. The one thing you do have to pay attention to when you're pulling it off your mat is that the center of the O's, the center of the D, the E, and the K are all there. So you will have to add those back to the letters if you want that white outline on the inside of those letters. So go and check that out. And I am using it today, pairing it up with the bobber and the worms from the February release. And I thought the bobber was super cute. It's heart-shaped. Also, the worms are super cute with their little wavy lines to them. I think they're adorable. So I'm going to go ahead and use those. I am not doing a fishing layout. I am doing a layout about the kids that I take care of and how the girls are pretty much smitten with their new baby brother. And so that is what I decided to use for my photographs. I thought that would be kind of fun. It is a little bit more, it's a little bit more masculine, but it's not, it's more playful. I'm using it in a playful way rather than in a serious, like I'm going fishing type of way. And I thought that was going to be a super cute way to use it. So I have a picture of each one of the older girls holding the baby, and then a picture of the two of the girls on either side of him in the middle. You're going to see that at the end, and it just comes out super cute. So I am just basically gluing the white part around the actual cut file, or the inside of the cut file, and then adding the O's, the outside of the O's, or the inside of the O's, I'm sorry, and the inside of the E, D, and K to just finish it off. And I basically used a piece of the packaging from the Spectrum Sherbert collection to get that pink to green look on the words. So I really like the way that that came out. Now I'm trying to figure out exactly how I want to use these worms over on the hook, trying to figure out which one works the best because I don't actually want it overlapping her head in the photo too much. So I am playing around with that a bit. And then I decided I want to actually make a shelf for everything to sit on. So I pulled out this additional piece of paper from Spectrum Sherbert and just cut off about 3 inches. And I am using my little tiny distress tool here to kind of rough up the edges and give it a little bit of texture and roll it down a little bit. I want it to look pretty rugged. I am not looking for a nice clean cut on this or anything else. I did snip some little cuts in it. This paper, if you know 49 and Market, is really thick. So getting the whole edge to roll down or be distressed takes quite a bit of finagling, and I didn't want to work that hard at it, so I put little cuts in it so that it would allow me to roll down some edges more than other edges, if you kind of catch my drift there. And I'm liking the way that it looks when all is said and done. I also am going to pull out some ink and go ahead and ink up the edges of it. I chose to use Broken China Distress Oxide ink. It closely matches the color of the paper, and so I thought that was a good idea. Not going over it like really heavy-handed. I'm going over it kind of just with a light dusting of the ink, so it doesn't look perfect. It just looks like it adds to the outline of the blue paper, and then just like some of it rubbed off on the other paper, kind of like the bottom paper looks like it's got some dry brush strokes on it. So that's kind of the look I'm going for with my inking as well. I did trim down my photos, just wanted to thin out the borders that come printed on my selfie because it normally prints a little bit wider border than I like. So I just use my scissors and manually just trim those down by eyeballing it. And I want to make sure this paper stays down, so I am using my stapler to go ahead and make it, or to attach it to itself, basically, to make sure that it's not going to pull up. And I actually like the addition of the metal from the staples. I think it just adds a nice texture, especially since this kind of layout is not a perfect layout anyway. It's not meant to be pristine. It's meant to have kind of a rugged look to it, or a playful rugged look to it, if you will. And I really like the way that the staples just add to that texture. And then I want to pull in some more of the lighter colors over into this left-hand side. So I am using more of that packaging, and I'm just going to go ahead and adhere it behind this rip that I'm putting in. And again, I use my stapler to go ahead and hold that torn edge down so that it doesn't flatten out and look like it just was a ripped piece of paper. It looks more intentional. Using some Nuvo glue just to make sure that the packaging doesn't pop up, because the packaging has more of a slick surface, so the tape runner is a little bit more likely to kind of pull off of it than the matte finish of the regular papers. I'm going to go ahead and layer that up and go ahead and get my photos set down, and I'm liking the position of that. I have oddly the girls are on either side of him, and so that worked out perfectly. These photos were not taken at the same time. They were taken at different times, and the oldest one is on the right hand side of him, and the younger one, or she's now the middle child, but the younger of the two girls is on the left-hand side of him. And so I thought that just worked out perfectly for the positioning of these photos. It was not intentional at all. It was just kismet to be that way. And then my title is just going to go right above so that the hook has a place to land just above the photo on the right hand side. Using the bobber, I really love this bobber. It's kind of a heart-shaped bobber, and I'm using more of that packaging to back it with because I don't want the rips or any of the texture to show through it. I want it to have something a little bit different. So I'm using the darker blue or blue-gray section of the packaging so that I bring more of that color over, and so that it's a little bit more obvious that it's not just the background that is peeking through. Now the piece that I just inked up there, that is a piece of canvas flare from Scrap and Happy Studios, and I happened to be at my retreat in January, and one of my friends had that piece, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to order that. That's perfect for a layout that I have coming up. And she gifted it to me. So thank you so much for gifting that to me. It is a can of worms, and the pink is the same color as the pink in the worms, or in the acrylic set, which I think is adorable. It's just super cute, you guys. So I definitely had to have that. And I really would have ordered it, but she did gift it to me, so I appreciate that. I am popping the entire cut file up onto some foam tape, being mindful that I don't want to put too much foam behind the hook, because I need to put the worm there, and part of the hook is going to be raised up on top of the worm, and it gets a little bit weird because the bottom or the tip of the hook has to be flush to the paper, or flat on the paper, whereas the rest of it is kind of layered up. And so I kind of had to play with that just a little bit to get it to look right, but at the end of the day it looks great, and I really am happy with how it turned out. Now I have two additional worms that I'm just trying to figure out where I want them placed. You will see that there is one down by the bobber there, and the curvature of the worm just nestled right in underneath that bobber, so I decided to go ahead and place it there. And then I'm going to put one up on that ripped area, and then the fourth one I was just trying to figure out, do I want them hanging off of the title again? Actually, it looks kind of cute right there, but I don't go with it on top of the K. I end up placing it down the left-hand side again, which kind of makes my left-hand side a little bit heavier than my right-hand side, but I do have a plan to add some journaling in the bottom right-hand corner, so I know that is coming up the journaling is going to reside down there, so it's okay that all of the worms, well, 3 of the worms or more left justified than right. I am also playing with the idea here of adding this twine coming off of the hook and attaching to the bobber. And so I do end up going with that kind of a scenario. You're going to see I'm going to cut this twine off. It is, I think it's hemp twine. Yeah, it's hemp cord. And I'm pretty sure I got it at Hobby Lobby in the jewelry section. I don't mind that it still has the twists in it. It gives a little bit of motion, or yeah, I guess motion's the right word. It gives a little bit of movement is what I'm trying to say to the layout, and it makes it look a little bit more playful. So I like how that's looking. Once I get it situated, I will put a little bit of glue on the knot where it's attached to the bobber. I do want to get the cut file all glued down. I didn't put glue on the hook quite yet because I want to make sure that I get the worm on there first before I adhere the hook part down, but I wanted to get the rest of it adhered down first, because once I start playing with the hook, I don't want the rest of it moving around. So I went ahead and just let that dry a little bit while I play with the cording and these other worms. I do put a little bit of glue on directly on the background of my layout, as you see there, and I just hold it with my tweezers and hold the cord into it so that it really just sets up and holds it in place. You could use glue dots as well, but this seemed to work just fine for me, so that's what I just decided to do. I ended up adding a glue dot to between the acrylic of the top worm there and the cord so that it stays in place. It doesn't get tugged on or anything like that when I'm going to stick it in my page protector. So that works out well. And then I'm adding more glue dots to this other worm that is kind of hanging off at the corner of the photograph there. I'm liking how that's looking. I like how the cord doesn't go over the photograph. It goes kind of around everything and down to the bobber. I'm going to add a little bit of glue dots to that area, to the bobber, so it stays down. And then I'm going to add some glue dots as well to the canvas flare. I apologize that it goes in and out of focus there when my head gets in the way, you guys, just trying to see over the top of everything and make sure everything is placed exactly where I want it. And I'm liking how that little cluster is looking there. I think it looks really cute. I like the addition of that worm nestled in between the two pieces. I think that's awfully fun. And I never had considered about putting worms on a baby layout, but I thought this was perfect for these particular photos. And in the photos, one of the girls has on some rainbow type pajamas, and so using this paper that has kind of a rainbow look to it worked really well. And the blue actually matches the blue in his blanket very well. It's kind of a hard blue to match, the blanket is, and so this worked out really well. I was really happy with the way it came out. Adding a little bit more foam at the top of the hook there, and I am going to add some right underneath where the worm meets up with the hook, and then the rest of it's flat. Then I decided to pull out my trusty little typewriter here, and I pulled out one of the papers from the card kit. It's actually one of the envelope papers. I want the blue side, and I'm going to type some text on it here. And I do know how to type, you guys. I might look like I was hunting and pecking there a little bit, or using my right hand to do some of the left hand keys. My typewriter is really old, and I am so used to typing on a regular computer keyboard that the little gaps between kind of throw me off. And my pinkies are not as strong as they would be if I typed on a regular typewriter all the time, because on a keyboard you don't have to be strong, but you kind of have to hit the keys a little bit harder on a regular typewriter to get the letters to show up, and my pinkies just are not strong enough without being super intentional about it. So it's easier for me not to use them. So anyway, my text just talks about how smitten they were with him, even though both of the girls assured me they were having a sister, not a brother. It was a surprise, and intentionally, their parents did not want to know. They wanted to be surprised, but both girls insisted he was going to be a girl. So I'm just writing down how they insisted that, but they were super smitten as soon as they met him, even though he wasn't what they expected. And that is it, you guys. My layout is complete and it looks balanced to me, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Don't forget, you can get all of these things over in the Some Assemblage Required shop. I will put a link down below for each one of the items, and you can go and check those out. If you're interested in that flare, you're going to have to go to Scrap and Happy Studio for that. I will try to find it on their site and put a link below for her flare as well. Thanks so much for watching. If you have questions or comments, leave those down below. And if you enjoyed this video, I would love a thumbs up, and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.